Imagine two faces. A handsome, dark-haired boy in Hogwarts robes, smiling politely as professors sing his praises, and a pale, snake-like creature in a little Hangleton graveyard, reborn in a cauldron, eyes glowing red as he points his wand at Harry Potter. These are the same person. Tom Riddle, Lord Voldemort. Today we're asking a very specific question. How does a golden boy become a Dark Lord? Not just in reputation, but in soul. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be discussing Tom Riddle in a way that goes a bit deeper than usual. We're not just going to be listing his crimes or recapping his greatest battles. Instead, in this video, I'm going to be diving into the one thing Voldemort claims to understand better than anyone else: the soul, and how his own was shattered piece by piece. It's worth mentioning that when we talk about Tom losing his soul, we're not talking about one big dramatic moment where it simply vanishes. There is no single spell, no single scream, where everything good in him just evaporates. What we see instead is a chain of decisions. Each murder, each act of cruelty, and each dark magical experiment literally carves away another fragment, until the boy who arrived at Hogwarts is unrecognizable, even to himself. On this channel, we love taking these big Harry Potter mysteries and treating them almost like character autopsies. We pull apart the timeline, we look at the psychology, and we match it up with the lore J.K. Rowling gives us. If you haven't seen that video yet, then go and check it out after this, but for now we're going to be focusing on Tom's journey from conception to final downfall, tracking every major wound to his soul along the way. So here's how this video is going to be structured. First, we're going to go right back to the beginning, the night Tom is conceived under the influence of a love potion, and what that means for his ability to feel genuine love. After that, we'll move into his childhood in the Muggle orphanage, where he's already stealing, torturing other children, and collecting trophies, and where Dumbledore first sees the warning signs. From there, we'll follow him to Hogwarts, where the charming, brilliant head boy starts quietly twisting his talents toward blood purity, immortality, and domination. Then we'll walk through each Horcrux, one by one: diary, ring, locket, cup, diadem, Nagini, and finally the unintended Horcrux that exposes his deepest blind spot. Every single one of these objects represents a murder and a mutilation, and by the end we'll reach the point where his soul is so damaged that even a body of his own blood can't hold it together. However, some of the most important fractures happen before the Horcruxes ever exist. The love potion conception, the emotional starvation of the orphanage, the moment he first learns about Horcruxes from Slughorn and decides that this is greatness worth pursuing, these are the quieter cuts. By the time he steps into that graveyard and rises from the cauldron, the monster we see isn't just a powerful dark wizard. It's the final shape of a soul that's been breaking for years. So, let's rewind everything and start at the very beginning, with a love potion, a lie, and a baby who never learns what real love feels like. Before we get started with Tom's childhood and the slow breaking of his soul, we need to jump to one of the loudest moments in the canon. The quiet cuts are important, but the graveyard in Little Hangleton is where all of that inner damage suddenly has a body. We're in Goblet of Fire. Harry has just touched the Triwizard Cup with Cedric, thinking they've won, and instead they're yanked into a cold, overgrown graveyard. Cedric dies in an instant. Harry is disarmed, dragged and tied to Tom Riddle Sr.'s tombstone, completely helpless, while Wormtail fusses over a huge black cauldron. The whole thing feels ritualistic and theatrical, but underneath the drama, there's something much darker going on. We watch Wormtail drop a tiny, twisted infant thing into the cauldron, Voldemort's temporary body, then add 3 ingredients: bone of the father, flesh of the servant, blood of the enemy. Each line of that chant is chilling on its own. However, it's worth mentioning that the real horror isn't just in the words, it's in what this ritual is actually revealing about the thing trying to come back. When Voldemort rises from the steam, this is the first time in the series we really see what has become of Tom Riddle. He's tall but unnaturally thin. His skin is described as whiter than a skull, stretched tight over his frame. His face is flat and snake-like, with slits for nostrils, and his eyes are a shocking, glowing scarlet with vertical pupils. The body looks wrong. It looks designed, and in this video, we're going to be discussing why that matters. This isn't just evil wizard makeover. Rowling has said that his inhuman appearance is the result of multiple soul mutilations, and the books quietly back that up. Every Horcrux is a violent tearing of the soul, an act that leaves the wizard less human on the inside, and what's inside in the wizarding world has a way of leaking out. Voldemort's new form is the physical echo of years of deliberate damage, a face sculpted by murder, fear of death, and a refusal to feel love. Then we get one of the most important little moments in the whole series. Voldemort walks up to Harry, taunts him, and with this horrible, almost affectionate curiosity, he touches Harry's scar. He presses a finger to the very place where a shard of his own soul has been lodged since Godric's Hollow, and he has no idea. In this video, I'm going to be diving into that connection later on, but here it's a perfect piece of dramatic irony. The ritual used Harry's blood to anchor Voldemort, twisting Lily's protection so he can now touch Harry without burning. It's victory to him. But what has to happen to a person, magically and morally, for them to come back looking like this and call it triumph? That's what we're going to trace, step by step, when we go back to the orphanage and meet Tom Riddle as a child. So to understand that graveyard creature, we have to go back to a rainy London doorstep, and a boy who already sounded like a villain giving a monologue. Dumbledore arrives at Wool's orphanage in the middle of a downpour. The building is grey, the sky is grey, even the mood is grey. Inside, Mrs. Cole is nervous and already a bit shaken. She pours gin into her tea, hands trembling, and starts listing the strange incidents that seem to follow one child in particular, Tom Riddle. In this video, we're going to be discussing how these little stories are actually our first clear signs that Tom's soul is already bending in the wrong direction. She tells Dumbledore about wardrobe doors slamming on their own, about a rabbit that ended up hanging from the rafters, about Tom luring 2 children to the seaside and something happening in a cave so terrifying they never spoke about it properly again. It's worth mentioning that accidental magic in young witches and wizards is normal, but what we see here isn't just uncontrolled power, it's power being used with intent. When Dumbledore finally climbs the stairs and opens that wardrobe door, he doesn't find a frightened child. He finds Tom sitting upright, clothes neatly folded, eyes cold and assessing. The politeness is there, but it's guarded, calculated. Tom immediately demands information, wants to know who Dumbledore is, why he's there, and crucially, he wants proof. He doesn't accept the word wizard on faith, he wants a demonstration. So Dumbledore obliges. Flames leap in the tin box, then vanish. The magic is real. Tom's reaction is not wonder, it's satisfaction. Control, he leans in and delivers that chilling line, "I can make bad things happen to people who are mean to me." That sentence is doing a lot of work. He's not confused by his abilities, he's proud of them as weapons. Then there's the cave. 2 children, led by Tom to a dark, echoing place by the sea. We never get a full description, but we know there was terror, we know there was pain, and we know Tom came back with trophies. He keeps stolen objects from the other children hidden in his wardrobe, not just as souvenirs, but as symbols of dominance. In this video, I'm going to be diving into how that trophy-taking shows an early fascination with suffering, ownership, and secrecy. For Dumbledore, this visit is a turning point. He sees a boy who already enjoys having power over others, who already lies smoothly, who already hides parts of himself away. Before we get started on Horcruxes later, we need to see that Tom is practicing a kind of emotional Horcrux making here, separating himself from ordinary guilt or empathy, locking those feelings in a metaphorical box. That crack in his humanity is small now, but as we're going to see in the next part, once Hogwarts gives him more power and more secrets, he doesn't try to heal it, he drives a wedge into it. That tiny crack in his humanity is where we need to zoom in. Because Tom Riddle's fall isn't just another good kid goes bad arc. It's something colder, more calculated, and honestly more unsettling than most dark wizard stories we ever hear about. Most dark wizards in the series are brutal or fanatical right from the start. They're shouting about blood purity, or they're obvious thugs like the Carrows. Tom is different. At Hogwarts he's the golden boy, handsome, brilliant, polite head boy. The kind of student teachers write glowing references for. In another version of this story, he's the hero who rises from a miserable orphanage to greatness, defeats dark magic, and becomes Minister for Magic. That contrast is exactly why, in this video, we're going to be discussing his life like a crime scene, rather than a simple backstory. It's worth mentioning that Tom's transformation is not just about wanting power. Plenty of witches and wizards want power. What he's really doing is declaring war on death itself. From the moment he learns he's a wizard, he starts treating mortality as an insult. He isn't content with being talented or influential. He wants to be untouchable, unkillable, and he decides that his own soul is an acceptable price. That's a philosophical choice. He doesn't stumble into darkness, he builds a system around the idea that feeling, attachment, and even basic empathy are weaknesses that must be cut away. That's where the Horcruxes stop being a gimmick and become a roadmap. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the idea that every Horcrux is both a murder and a confession. The diary isn't just a weapon, it's a preserved memory of the charming schoolboy he wants the world to fear forever. The ring ties back to his despised Muggle family and a gaunt obsession with heritage. The locket, the cup, the diadem, Nagini, and yes, even the unintended piece in Harry, all tell us what Tom values, what he fears, or what part of himself he's trying to erase. Each object is him saying, "This is what matters to me more than my soul." And that brings us to the question fans never stop asking, was Tom ever redeemable? And if so, when did that window slam shut? Was it back in the orphanage when he was torturing other children and collecting trophies? Or later at Hogwarts, when Dumbledore still held out a cautious hope? Before we get started on the chronological breakdown, we want to frame this video as a way of tracing that window closing, step by deliberate step. Because we're not just going to be ticking off 7 Horcruxes and calling it a day. We're going to be following the in-between acts, the lies to Slughorn, the manipulation of classmates, the murders that don't make it into an object but still tear his soul. By the end, you'll see that Voldemort isn't born in one ritual. He's carved out of Tom Riddle piece by piece. In the next section, we'll start that carving at Hogwarts, when the castle itself becomes his first real hunting ground. So before we get started on Hogwarts and hunting grounds, we need to rewind to something much quieter and honestly much darker. Because Tom Riddle's soul story doesn't begin with a murder. It begins in a rotting shack, with a girl who has already been broken. In this video, we're going to be discussing how Voldemort's very conception is framed as a violation. To get there, we have to look at the Gaunts. The Gaunt family is ancient, pure blood, and completely decayed. We meet them in Little Hangleton through Morphin, Marvolo, and Merope. And what we see is a snapshot of generational rot, poverty, inbreeding, obsession with blood status, and casual cruelty that feels almost routine. Merope Gaunt grows up as the family's scapegoat, terrorized by her father and brother, her magic so suppressed by fear that she can barely perform basic spells. Right across the valley, there's another house, the Riddle house, clean, rich, muggle, and in it the handsome Tom Riddle Sr., who rides past the Gaunt shack on his horse. Merope fixates on him, not because she's evil, but because he represents everything she's been denied: beauty, safety, a way out. Rowling paints her as abused and desperate, watching him through the window, clutching her locket like it's the only piece of herself that still matters. This is where the line is crossed. Using magic, Merope slips Tom Riddle Sr. a love potion. First to get his attention, then to drag him into a relationship, and finally into marriage. In this video, I'm going to be diving in to how important that detail really is. Because this isn't a cute magical shortcut. This is coercion. It's the theft of consent, the replacement of a real person with an enchanted puppet who smiles and says all the right things because he has no choice. It's worth mentioning that Rowling herself has commented on this. She has said that Tom being conceived under a love potion is directly tied to his inability to feel love. Not that there's a genetic evil gene, but that he is literally created in a moment where love is faked, forced, chemically simulated. The template for his existence is a lie. The one relationship that should have been built on mutual care is instead built on control and illusion. However, that doesn't doom him automatically. Other characters are born into horror and still choose differently. What it does mean is that Tom begins life with a warped model of connection. Where other children slowly learn that affection is reciprocal, he comes from a union where one person held all the power and the other had none. Control, obsession, and the appearance of love stand in for the real thing. So when he grows up, why would he ever trust love as a stable force? Of course he gravitates to power instead. If the closest thing to romance in his origin story is a potion that overwrites someone's will, then permanent mastery, not mutual vulnerability, becomes the only safety he can imagine. You can already see the seed of Horcrux logic here. Better to dominate death, dominate others, dominate fate itself. than to risk relying on something as fragile as human attachment. In the next section, we're going to be following how that seed grows at Hogwarts, when Tom finally has a stage big enough to test out this philosophy of control on real people, not just in his bloodline. But before we get started on Hogwarts, we have to sit for a minute in the place that shaped Tom before any wand ever chose him. Wool's orphanage is not a gothic castle or a cursed forest. It's worse in a quieter way. It's ordinary. Think of chipped grey walls that always feel a little damp, corridors that smell like boiled cabbage and disinfectant, and windows that let in just enough London light to make the dust visible. The routines are strict, the food is bland, and the children line up, eat, sleep, repeat. However, in this sea of sameness, Tom Riddle already stands out. The other kids don't have a word for it, but they know he's unsettling. They avoid his bed. They whisper about him when they think he can't hear. In this video, we're going to be discussing how these early years aren't just background detail. They're the laboratory where Tom experiments with control. We hear about his thefts, toys, trinkets, anything that gives him leverage. He doesn't steal because he needs things. He steals because he likes knowing he can take. The objects he hoards under his mattress or in that secret box are trophies, each one a quiet reminder that he's cleverer and more powerful than the children around him. Then there are the animals. The rabbit that goes missing, the incidents on outings by the seaside, the way he can make creatures obey him, come to him, suffer for him. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the idea that Tom is already rehearsing dark magic long before he has the language for it. When he lures those two children into the cave and does something that leaves them traumatized and silent, that's not a random burst of cruelty. That's a test. How far can he go? How much fear can he create and still walk back into the orphanage looking perfectly innocent? It's worth mentioning that being different doesn't automatically break a soul. Plenty of witches and wizards grow up in muggle homes feeling strange and isolated. The crucial thing is what they do with that difference. Tom could have reached for connection, even just with one other lonely child. Instead, every time he feels the gap between himself and the others, he fills it with superiority and secrecy. Here's the pattern interrupt. Tom is hurt too. He is abandoned, unwanted, mocked, but when pain knocks on his door, he doesn't open it to anyone. He locks it away and decides that needing people is weakness. So if a boy steals his toy, Tom doesn't cry or complain. He waits, he plans, he makes sure that boy pays in a way no adult can trace. This is where we need to talk about the soul. A soul doesn't shatter only when you commit murder or perform a Horcrux ritual. It erodes in small, repeated choices. Control over vulnerability, fear over trust, punishment over understanding. Every time Tom chooses to make someone else afraid rather than admit his own fear, a hairline crack appears. By the time Dumbledore walks into Wool's orphanage, Tom has already built a private kingdom of dominance in a building full of powerless children. Hogwarts, then, is going to be both a genuine chance for redemption and a much bigger stage. If you haven't seen that video yet, then go and check it out after this, because in the next section we follow how Tom takes the lessons of Wool's secrecy, trophies, manipulation, and scales them up to an entire school that's ready to adore him. Hogwarts is supposed to save him. That's the tragedy. The very place that could have healed Tom Riddle instead becomes the perfect laboratory for a future Dark Lord. Tom's first glimpse of the castle is pure cinematic awe. The boats on the Black Lake, The torches, the towers rising out of the mist. For a boy who's only ever known peeling paint and iron beds, this looks like a promise. Power, belonging, a new name. When the sorting hat touches his head, it doesn't hesitate. Slytherin, ambition, cunning, hunger for greatness, the hat finds all of it already fully formed, and Tom slips into green and silver as if he's been rehearsing for this role his whole life. From that point, he adapts to the magical world at lightning speed. The boy who bullied other children with accidents is suddenly the boy who can control it, who can make objects fly to his hand on command instead of through raw rage. Teachers see an orphan who studies late, asks sharp questions, and never steps out of line when they're watching. Students see something else as well. He's handsome, reserved in a way that reads as mysterious, and always perfectly polite. The contrast with his origins only makes the story better. Hogwarts loves a rags-to-riches narrative, and Tom knows exactly how to play the lead. It's worth mentioning that Hogwarts rewards that performance immediately. Awards for special services. Best marks in his year. Professors like Slughorn invite him into their inner circles, pressing chocolates and connections into his hands. Little did they know at the time, but every compliment is going to be filed away as proof that he deserves more. The castle keeps saying yes to his intelligence, his charm, his ambition. It almost never challenges what's missing. Empathy, remorse. Any genuine curiosity about other people as people. Underneath all the praise, something darker is hardening. In this video, we're going to be discussing how his obsession with heritage really ignites here, and Hogwarts gives him the perfect fuel. The moment he traces his bloodline through the Gaunts back to Salazar Slytherin, everything clicks into place. He isn't just clever, he is heir. The rhetoric he's hearing in his house about pure blood doesn't disturb him, it flatters him. The Muggle father who abandoned his mother becomes a stain to be scrubbed out of his story, while the violent, decayed Gaunts become proof that he is destined to rule. However, in this video I'm going to be diving into the way the institution itself helps him hide. Hogwarts is built to measure essays, exam scores, and house points. It is not built to detect a boy who smiles at teachers and then quietly terrorizes anyone weaker when no one is looking. The very rules of the school become a game for him. How far can he bend them without breaking them? How far can he bend people? Every time he gets away with something, a lie, a manipulation, a carefully staged accident, he learns that charm and secrecy are as powerful as any spell. By the time he reaches the middle of his Hogwarts years, the castle has given Tom exactly what he craves most. Knowledge, status, and a stage. He has access to the restricted section, to old magic and darker theories about death and the soul. He has followers who admire him, teachers who trust him, and a reputation that makes adults dismiss any whisper against him. Before we get started on his first experiments with true dark magic, we need to understand this. Hogwarts doesn't just fail to stop Tom Riddle, it teaches him how to disappear in plain sight, so that when he finally crosses the line into soul-mutilating magic, almost no one even sees the moment it happens. Hogwarts has taught Tom how to vanish in plain sight. Now it's going to give him something much darker, a private kingdom under the school and a monster that will kill for him. In this video, we're going to be discussing the moment that polish finally cracks. In 1943, when fifth-year Tom Riddle discovers that the whispers about him are true. He really is the heir of Slytherin. He tracks Salazar's legend through the castle's pipes and myths until he finds the entrance in the girls' bathroom, speaks Parseltongue, and descends into the Chamber of Secrets. The copy of Hogwarts that he finds beneath the floors is everything he loves twisted, ancient, secret, and built for someone exactly like him. Down there, Tom meets the basilisk, a weapon bred to obey a single bloodline. He doesn't stumble into controlling it, he learns, experiments, and then commands. It's worth mentioning that this isn't a boy playing with a dangerous pet. This is a strategist realizing that the castle itself has handed him a living curse he can point wherever he wants. And he knows exactly where he wants to point it. Tom has already absorbed Slytherin's hatred of Muggleborns and welded it to his own orphanage trauma. Muggles humiliated his mother. Muggles raised him. So when he starts sending the basilisk through the pipes, he isn't pulling pranks or trying to scare people away. He's performing what he sees as ideological cleansing, using the school's foundations to literally purge the impure from its corridors. That's how Myrtle Warren dies. A lonely, bullied girl crying in a bathroom is nothing to Tom except an opportunity. He opens the chamber, speaks to the basilisk, and directs it toward the sound of her voice. She looks into its eyes and dies instantly. For Tom, Myrtle isn't a classmate, she's a test case. A proof of concept. Her life is just the price of making the legend of Slytherin's heir real. This is his first deliberate murder. He chooses the victim, chooses the method, and then, crucially, chooses the story that follows. After Myrtle's death shuts the school down in panic, Tom doesn't feel remorse, he feels risk. His perfect world is about to be taken from him. So he pivots. He hunts down Aragog, frames Hagrid as the monster's keeper, and presents himself as the heroic student who caught the culprit. The result is that shiny plaque for special services to the school, hanging on the wall as a trophy for a killing he committed. In this video I'm going to be diving into later murders, but this one is different, because Tom immediately learns that killing can be edited. You can remove the guilt, rewrite the memory, and come out more admired than before. Before we get started on Horcruxes themselves, we need to see what this moment opens inside him. A literal hidden door, and a new belief that death can be used as a tool for survival, power, and, soon enough, immortality. The next time he kills, he won't just be protecting his legend. He'll be trying to tear his own soul apart on purpose. So, we've seen Tom open that hidden door in Slughorn's office. Now we need to talk about what's actually behind it. Because Horcrux isn't just a spooky word. It's a whole philosophy of death, murder, and what it means to stop being human. In-universe, a Horcrux is one of the darkest objects a witch or wizard can create. It's made when someone commits murder and then uses a spell to tear their soul, trapping a fragment inside an external item. First comes the killing, then comes the anchoring. The object can be anything from a diary to a ring. But the point is always the same. If your body dies, that hidden piece keeps you from truly passing on. However, it's worth mentioning that this is not common knowledge, even in a world full of dark curses. Slughorn's altered memory shows us just how taboo this subject is. In that scene, teenage Tom leans forward in the office, pretending to be the curious, ambitious student. He asks about Horcruxes, about how, about whether it could be done more than once. Slughorn, who has seen plenty of dark magic, is horrified. Even he doesn't want this on his conscience. And that's our first big clue. We're not dealing with a simple spell you pick up from a dusty book. The act that creates a Horcrux isn't just about killing someone in battle or in a moment of rage. It has to be a deliberate, cold-blooded murder, paired with a complex, secret incantation that literally rips the soul apart and binds the torn piece into the chosen object. The magic feeds on intent. You have to want the death, and you have to want the immortality more. In this video, we're going to be discussing Tom's journey through each of these acts, but before we get started on the specific Horcruxes, we need to understand the cost. Every time the soul is split, it becomes thinner, less stable, less capable of ordinary human emotions. Remorse, empathy, and especially love all require a whole, responsive soul. When you keep hacking pieces off, you don't just become harder to kill. You become less able to care that anyone else dies at all. Rowling hints that this is why Voldemort's body changes so dramatically. The more Horcruxes he creates, the more inhuman he looks. The skin, the eyes, the snake-like face. The outside starts to mirror the inside. That's not an accident. It's a visual sign of what repeated soul mutilation does. Here's the pattern interrupt. A Horcrux isn't just a trophy of murder, it's a wound that never heals. In this video, I'm going to be diving into each known Horcrux, the murder that powered it, and the specific way it warps Tom's identity. We're going to track the diary, the ring, the locket, the cup, the diadem, Nagini, and finally Harry himself. After we break those down, you'll see that he doesn't lose his soul in one moment. He throws it away, piece by piece. So, let's start with the Horcrux that looks the least dangerous. It isn't a cursed ring or an ancient relic, it's a school book. A small, black diary with blank pages that only bleed ink when you write in them. In Chamber of Secrets, we watch Harry test it out, see his words vanish, and then get pulled straight into a memory of 16-year-old Tom Riddle, perfectly preserved, waiting. On the surface, it's just a clever magical object. But this diary is Tom's first serious experiment with immortality. It's worth mentioning that the murder tied to it is almost certainly Moaning Myrtle's death. Tom opens the chamber, unleashes the basilisk, and deliberately directs it to kill a vulnerable Muggle-born girl. That act of cold, calculated murder is believed to be the moment he tears his soul on purpose for the first time, not in a rage, but in a planned ritual. This is a huge shift. Up to this point, Tom Riddle has been obsessed with power and with blood purity, but the diary shows him crossing into full soul mutilation territory. He asks Slughorn about Horcruxes, learns that murder is the key, and then chooses a child in his own school as the sacrifice. The copy of himself inside the diary is frozen at that exact age. Young, handsome, brilliant, and still admired by almost everyone at Hogwarts. And that's where the symbolism of a diary really matters. A diary is a record of self. It's where you capture who you are, what you think, what you want the world to remember. Tom doesn't just keep a journal, though. He turns the diary into a vessel that immortalizes the version of himself he likes best, the prodigy who has never been defeated, never been exposed, never been told no by the wider world. In this video, we're going to be discussing how each Horcrux traps a different piece of his identity, and here we see him canonizing his own teenage legend. However, the diary does more than store memories. It fights back. It writes to Ginny, gains her trust, then slowly drains her life, and takes over her body. The Horcrux doesn't just sit passively, it actively possesses her, making her open the chamber and attack her classmates. That's Tom's psychology in miniature. His soul fragment doesn't want to coexist with another mind. It wants to overwrite it, to replace Ginny Weasley with Tom Riddle. How could you get a clearer picture of his desire to erase other people's identities and install his own in their place? There's another important detail here. By choosing a school diary, Tom is tying his immortality to Hogwarts itself. This is the place that took in an angry, neglected orphan and told him he was special, powerful, chosen. Preserving his 16-year-old self inside an object meant to circulate in the castle means that, in his mind, Tom Riddle will always be walking Hogwarts corridors, always solving its mysteries, always outsmarting the staff. In this video, I'm going to be diving into how the later Horcruxes move away from this intimate, personal symbolism. But the diary is different. It's personal, it's experimental, and it's narcissistic. After this, he starts looking beyond schoolbooks and into true heirlooms of power, beginning with a ring that connects him to the family he thinks he deserves, not the one he actually had. So after the diary, we leave classrooms and corridors behind and step into something much darker. The next Horcrux isn't made in a bathroom or a hidden chamber at Hogwarts. It's made in a village that represents everything Tom Riddle wants to deny about himself. Tom walks back into Little Hangleton not as an uncertain orphan, but as a young man fresh out of Hogwarts, already experimenting with immortality. He's been digging through the Gaunt shack, claiming the ring that once belonged to Marvolo Gaunt, and in this video we're going to be discussing how he uses it to rewrite his own origin story. The Riddle house on the hill is where his Muggle father lives in comfort, pretending Tom's mother never existed. Tom arrives there with a wand, a plan, and absolutely no intention of leaving anyone alive. The confrontation with his father and grandparents is never fully shown on the page, but the outcome is chilling. There is no duel, no struggle. Just 3 healthy Muggles found dead at the dinner table, still in their chairs, faces frozen in surprise. That tells us everything. Tom doesn't rage or rant. He kills them swiftly and silently, with a cold contempt that fits the boy who already tortured children at the orphanage and collected trophies. These murders are efficient, clinical, and for him, almost administrative. But they're not random. That's the key. He is not just killing Muggles, he is killing his father, the man who abandoned his mother while she was pregnant, and the grandparents who raised that man to despise magic. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the symbolism here, because this is Tom taking a wand to his own family tree. By choosing this moment to tear his soul again and bind it to the Gaunt ring, he's erasing the non-magical half of his heritage and pretending it never mattered. The ring itself is crucial. On one level, it's a Gaunt heirloom, proof of his connection to Salazar Slytherin and the pure wizarding bloodline he idolizes. However, it's worth mentioning that the stone set into that ring is the Resurrection Stone, one of the 3 Deathly Hallows. Any other wizard who knew the legend would see an artifact that promises a way to face death differently. Tom sees only a convenient, ancient, powerful object to stuff a fragment of his soul into. He ignores the Hallow's deeper meaning because he's not interested in mastering death by understanding it. He wants to bully death into submission. After this night, the split is no longer just magical. It's personal. He has murdered his father, claimed his true family's ring, and turned it into a Horcrux. This is the moment he can finally discard the name Tom Marvolo Riddle without looking back, moving closer to the constructed persona of Lord Voldemort with a soul now twice broken. And the way he uses that new name next, and who he targets with his growing army, shows just how far he's willing to go to keep cutting pieces off himself. And this is exactly where Tom Riddle's ambition stops being just horrifying and starts getting mathematical. He isn't only killing, he's planning. He's designing a soul like it's a dark arts engineering project. Before we get started on Voldemort's personal obsession, it's worth mentioning that the number 7 is already loaded with power in the wizarding world. 7 years at Hogwarts, 7 players on a Quidditch team, 7 Weasley children. Even in core magical theory, 7 is treated as the most powerfully magical number, the point where patterns complete and power stabilizes. Wizards don't just see 7 as lucky, they see it as structurally significant. So when Tom studies magic at this level, he isn't only memorizing spells. He's absorbing this numerology, this idea that 7 is the pinnacle. In this video, we're going to be discussing how he takes that cultural belief and twists it into a blueprint for mutilating his own soul. Dumbledore later reconstructs the plan. Voldemort wants his soul split into 7 parts, 6 anchored safely in Horcruxes, and a final fragment left inside his own body to keep him functional. On paper, it sounds almost clean. 6 objects hidden across the world, 1 Dark Lord still walking and casting. But that's exactly the problem. Tom reduces the question of life and death to a paper exercise. He thinks if he can line up the right number, the right distribution of fragments, he can outwit mortality itself. The soul becomes a set of fractions, a puzzle to be optimized rather than a mystery to be protected. In this video, I'm going to be diving into that arrogance, because it tells you more about Voldemort than any duel. He genuinely believes the rules of existence are negotiable if you're clever enough. Other wizards fear the idea of even 1 Horcrux. He looks at that horror and says, "Fine, but what if I do it 6 times and hit the numerologically perfect 7? It's a chilling kind of logic, and of course, it completely ignores the human cost. Here's the pattern interrupt. At no point in his planning does Tom ever stop to ask what a soul is for. To him, it's not the seat of conscience or the source of love. It's a resource, a battery, something you can mine through murder and then store away in a ring, a diary, a cup, as if you're just diversifying investments. That detachment is why he can stand over a body, feel his soul rip, and treat it as progress. However, that same perfect system plants the seed of his downfall. Because souls are not neat equations, and love is not something you can account for on a chalkboard. When he goes to Godric's Hollow and tries to kill a baby, he isn't planning another Horcrux. He's expecting a clean, final victory. Instead, Lily's sacrificial protection rebounds his own curse and tears off a fragment of soul he never meant to lose. That accidental Horcrux in Harry doesn't just ruin the symmetry of 7. It exposes the flaw in the entire philosophy. Voldemort can calculate numbers, but he cannot understand sacrificial love, and that blind spot is going to haunt every step of his return. And that blind spot, that failure to understand love, is exactly why the next scene hits so hard. Because before we get started on the murders themselves, we need to look at the night Tom Riddle sat in a cozy office and calmly researched how to tear his own soul apart. We're in Slughorn's rooms. Lamps are low, the fire is bright, and the air is thick with that rich, slightly sickly smell of crystallized pineapple. Slughorn is in his element here, surrounded by his favorites, building his little collection of promising students. There's soft armchairs, goblets of mead, and of course Tom Riddle at the absolute center of attention, handsome and attentive, asking polite questions and laughing at all the right moments. To everyone else, this is just another comfortable Slug Club evening. To Tom, it's a hunting ground. It's worth mentioning that in this video we're going to be discussing a turning point that looks like a simple academic chat. Tom waits. He flatters. He lets Slughorn bask in his own stories. And then, when the timing is perfect, he leans in with that calculated question about Horcruxes, framed as pure curiosity. He talks about theoretical magic, wonders aloud how wizards have managed to push the boundaries of death, as if he's just a bright student pushing his studies a little further. Slughorn's reaction tells you everything. The jovial mood drops. He blusters, he stalls, he reminds Tom that this is very dark magic that isn't taught at Hogwarts. A seasoned potions master who has seen all kinds of curses suddenly wants to change the subject. But Tom doesn't let him. He presses, politely but relentlessly, and Slughorn, flattered and a little drunk, gives in. And this is where the mask really slips. Tom doesn't just ask what a Horcrux is, he asks about multiple Horcruxes. He wants to know if the soul can be split more than once, if it could be divided again and again. That's not idle speculation. That is premeditated intent, coming from a 16-year-old who has already thought through the logistics of industrialized soul mutilation. He's not asking whether it's wrong, he's asking how many pieces he can get away with. In this video, I'm going to be diving into why Slughorn's later shame matters so much. Years afterward, he is so horrified by that conversation that he literally edits his own memory, blurring Tom's questions and softening his own answers. A man who has brewed love potions and Felix Felicis and watched students die in war is most haunted by the night he helped Tom Riddle do research. Little did anyone know at the time, but this is the intellectual point of no return. From here on, Tom isn't stumbling into darkness. He has chosen a method, gathered the theory, and is going to be engineering his own damnation step by step. In the next part, we're going to follow how he turns that theory into his first real Horcrux. From theory to practice, Tom's next move is all about legacy. Not just surviving death, but chaining his soul to a name that goes all the way back to the foundations of Hogwarts. So, first we need to talk about the Slytherin locket itself. This isn't just a pretty piece of jewelry. It begins with Salazar Slytherin, passes down through a secretive bloodline, and eventually lands in the hands of the Gaunts, who are clinging to it as proof that they're still important while their house literally falls apart around them. The locket is their last bragging right. It's the relic that says, "We mattered once." Then everything collapses. Merope Gaunt, abused and desperate, steals that locket from her own family. She runs away, uses a love potion on Tom Riddle Sr., and when that fantasy crumbles, she's left pregnant, abandoned, and destitute in London. She sells Slytherin's locket to Borgin and Burkes just to survive. The ancient heirloom of a Hogwarts founder is reduced to a pawn ticket and a pile of coins. That's the history Tom grows up not knowing, but that he is going to be rewriting the second he finds out who he really is. In this video, we're going to be discussing how, once Tom learns about his heritage, the locket becomes an obsession. Working at Borgin and Burke's, he meets Hepzibah Smith, a wealthy collector who proudly shows him two treasures, Hufflepuff's cup and Slytherin's locket, now polished and pampered in a fancy cabinet. Tom plays the charming clerk, but he's already measuring these objects as pieces of his future immortality. After he gains her trust, he murders Hepzibah in cold blood and steals both artifacts, then carefully stages the scene to frame her house elf Hokey. The Ministry sees a tragic accident. Tom walks away with history in his pockets. In this video, I'm going to be diving into why the locket is the perfect Horcrux choice for him. It's worth mentioning that this isn't random. The locket fuses everything he craves: proof of pure blood ancestry, a direct line to Salazar Slytherin, and a way to overwrite the shame of the Gaunt's poverty and Merope's weakness. By turning it into a Horcrux, Tom is declaring that he, not his broken family, is the true heir who will restore and correct the Slytherin legacy. However, the soul fragment inside the locket doesn't just sit there. When Ron wears it years later, we see exactly what Tom has poured into it. It whispers on his worst fears, amplifies his jealousy of Harry, tells him he's second best, unwanted, replaceable. That isn't random negativity, it's Tom's own terror of being ordinary, abandoned, and unloved, baked into metal and magic. By this point, every Founder's relic he corrupts is doing double duty. He's not only preserving a slice of himself, he's vandalizing Hogwarts history, repainting the Founders as stepping stones to his own greatness. And the next artifact he targets is going to show just how far he's willing to go to make that rewrite permanent. And that rewrite becomes literal the moment Tom lays eyes on a small glittering cup in a cluttered sitting room. Helga Hufflepuff's cup doesn't look dangerous. It's dainty, gold, with little handles and a badger engraved on the side. Hepzibah Smith treats it like a beloved pet, cradling it, cooing over it, bragging that her family once bought it from the Hufflepuff line. In that moment, we're going to be seeing everything Hufflepuff stands for: warmth, hospitality, generosity with heirlooms and food and affection, all poured into this tiny object that most of wizarding history has probably forgotten about. Tom does not forget. The second she unwraps the cup, we're told his eyes flash. That's the pattern interrupt the story uses on us. Up to now, he's been the charming shop assistant, flattering Hepzibah, fetching her cocoa. Suddenly, there's that gleam of greed. He recognizes it instantly as a Founder's artifact, another piece of Hogwarts he can claim and corrupt. Little did Hepzibah know, but the polite boy she's flirting with is already cataloguing how this thing can be weaponized. It's worth mentioning that Hepzibah herself is almost painfully Hufflepuff. She's lonely, talkative, thrilled to have a handsome young listener. She trusts too easily. Tom plays that like a violin. He smiles, he flatters. He lets her believe she's in control as she shows him not just the cup, but Slytherin's locket as well. And then, after he's seen enough, he murders her off-page, poisons her cocoa, and frames her poor house elf for the crime. This is crucial for Voldemort's soul. He doesn't just kill, he uses kindness as bait. Hepzibah's affection, her hospitality, her willingness to share her treasures are the exact tools he twists to get close enough. In this video, I'm going to be diving into how each Horcrux costs him a different piece of his humanity, and here we see him discarding any remaining respect for trust itself. If warmth can be exploited, he'll exploit it. If loyalty can be faked, he'll fake it. So why Hufflepuff's cup? On a symbolic level, it's brutal. Hufflepuff is the house of loyalty, fairness, hard work, and quiet decency. Tom takes a literal vessel of those values and fills it with a shard of his fractured, ruthless soul. The cup that once represented shared meals and safe refuge becomes a container for murder, for the death of a woman who did nothing but be kind to him. It's hospitality turned into a trap. Years later, that corruption is echoed in where he hides it. The cup ends up in Bellatrix Lestrange's vault at Gringotts, buried under multiplying, burning treasure. On paper, that looks like security and loyalty. In reality, it's fear and fanaticism doing the guarding. Bellatrix doesn't protect the cup out of Hufflepuff-style devotion. She worships Voldemort, terrified and obsessed. Her vault is the opposite of Helga's open table. It's sealed, cursed, hoarded. Before we get started on the next Horcrux, it's worth seeing the pattern forming. Every time Tom anchors his soul, he also desecrates an ideal. With the cup, he proves that even the gentlest magic in this world can be twisted, and that no house value, not even loyalty itself, is safe from being hollowed out and filled with his fear of death. And that brings us to the most ironic Horcrux of all, the one that was supposed to make you wiser. Rowena Ravenclaw's lost diadem is already a legend by the time Tom Riddle hears about it. This isn't just jewelry. This is the enchanted circlet, said to enhance the wisdom of the wearer. The crown of the house that values wit beyond measure. In this video, we're going to be discussing how Tom takes that ideal and flips it into pure vanity, turning intelligence into a weapon rather than a guide. First, we need to look at how he even finds it. Tom doesn't stumble across the diadem in a vault or a shop. He hunts it through a story, through a trauma. As a charming Hogwarts prefect, he seeks out the Grey Lady, who is really Helena Ravenclaw, Rowena's own daughter. No one else ever gets much out of her, but Tom approaches her with calculated gentleness. He presents himself as the one person who truly understands her isolation. He listens to her tale of jealousy and flight, of stealing her mother's diadem and hiding it in a far-off forest in Albania. He plays the attentive confidant, but under that polished surface, he's already stripping her for parts, treating her confession as a map. It's worth mentioning that this is one of the clearest moments where we see Tom's empathy as pure performance. He mirrors Helena's pain back at her just enough to make her trust him, then walks away with the location of one of the most powerful magical artifacts in history. After Hogwarts, he follows that lead into the Albanian forest. We're never shown the exact scene, but we can infer the pattern. The same boy who could charm a cupboard into giving up its secrets now combs through ancient woods, tracking the faint magical echo of the diadem Helena abandoned there. When he finally recovers it, he doesn't wear it to become wiser. He wears it long enough to mark it, to stain it with murder, and then he brings it home. Home, for Tom, is always Hogwarts. He returns as an adult, already deep into his Horcrux work, and hides the diadem in the Room of Requirement. This is the castle's hidden heart, the place that becomes whatever you need. Tom uses it as a dumping ground for his sins, turning a room of second chances into a secret Horcrux vault. The diadem is perched among forgotten junk, like genius thrown onto a rubbish heap. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the symbolism here because it's brutal. The diadem is supposed to enhance wisdom, but Tom doesn't care about wisdom at all. He cares about the appearance of cleverness. the illusion of being the most brilliant wizard in the room. True understanding requires humility, the willingness to be wrong. Tom only wants proof that he's right. By this point, his soul is so damaged that cleverness for him means outwitting death and humiliating others. There's no moral insight left in it, no compassion, no restraint. The diadem becomes the perfect mirror of that twisted intellect, radiant on the outside, rotten at the core. He doesn't just corrupt an object of wisdom, he proves that his mind, once Hogwarts pride, is now completely severed from conscience. And as we're going to see with his next Horcrux, even the very symbol of Hogwarts itself isn't safe from that corruption. And as Hogwarts itself is dragged into his Horcrux web through the diadem, the corruption doesn't stop with stone and metal. It moves. It breathes. It coils. Because the next vessel for Voldemort's soul isn't a relic at all, but a living creature that used to be a human being. Before we get started on Nagini as a Horcrux, it's worth mentioning that later Wizarding World lore reveals something chilling about her. She isn't just a giant snake that follows Voldemort around the battlefield. She was once a woman, a maledictus, cursed from birth to eventually become trapped forever in an animal form. That means there is a buried human consciousness there. A life and identity that have been swallowed by the curse long before Voldemort ever shows up. In this video, we're going to be discussing how that makes Nagini completely different from his other Horcruxes. When Voldemort is a broken wraith in Albania, clinging to existence after his first fall, he encounters her in the forests there. He is drawn to snakes anyway through his Parcel Tongue. But Nagini is special. She is familiar, because he can speak to her and be understood. She is controllable, because she is already physically dependent and vulnerable in a harsh environment. So, in that exile period, the Dark Lord without a body and a cursed woman without a human form become a grotesque partnership. After he regains strength, Voldemort takes that partnership a step further. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the moment Nagini stops being just an ally and becomes a literal piece of his soul. The timeline points to the murder of Bertha Jorkins in Albania. Jorkins' death is brutal, and it gives Voldemort the opportunity he wants. Another Horcrux, but unlike the diary or the locket, he chooses Nagini, a living being, as the container. That decision matters. Placing a soul fragment into a living creature means that bit of Voldemort is riding inside a mind that moves, feels pain, and can disobey, at least in theory. Psychologically, this is peak Voldemort. Nagini is both pet and extension of his will. He speaks through her, hides within her, and uses her to attack, as we see with Arthur Weasley in the Department of Mysteries and later with the death of Snape. It's domination disguised as companionship. He can't love, but he still craves something that is always there, always listening, never saying no. Nagini becomes the fantasy of total control over another sentient being, locked into obedience by both curse and Horcrux magic. However, this is exactly where the crack appears. By tying his soul to a creature that can be killed, Voldemort introduces a weakness born from his own hunger for power and presence. A snake can be decapitated. A living body can be tracked, injured, or turned against him. And as we're going to see when we move to his final unintended Horcrux, that need for connection doesn't just make him vulnerable through Nagini, it opens the door to the one person he fears most without even realizing it. That door to Harry doesn't just exist through Nagini. It's also opened by something much quieter and, in a way, much darker. The murders that don't count as Horcruxes, but still grind Voldemort's soul down to dust. In this video, we're going to be discussing those deaths that never get an artifact, never get a dramatic reveal in Dumbledore's office, but absolutely matter. Because once Voldemort has the framework of Horcruxes in place, he doesn't stop killing. He just stops needing a ritual as an excuse. Think about the Second Wizarding War for a moment. Amelia Bones, one of the most respected witches of her age, is murdered in her own home. There's no ring or locket waiting on the table afterward. It's a political assassination, a message. Charity Burbage hangs helpless over the Malfoys' dining table, begging Snape for help, and Voldemort kills her with a casual Avada Kedavra before feeding her to Nagini. No Horcrux, just spectacle, and that's not even counting the nameless victims. Muggle families wiped out in the First War. Muggles tortured on the ceiling of the Muggle-born Registration Commission. Opponents killed in the streets, in the air, in their beds. We're told there are mass killings, slaughters, murders, but the narrative can't even pause on all of them. However, each one is still a tear in what's left of his soul, a repetition of the same violence that made the diary and the ring and the cup, just without the tidy label. It's worth mentioning that the Horcrux ritual is an extra act layered on top of murder. The spell harnesses the rupture and binds it to an object. But the rupture is always there. Every time Voldemort kills, something in him has to break contact with the idea that the person in front of him is real. At first, with Myrtle and then with Hepzibah, that's a shocking transgression. After dozens, then hundreds of deaths, it becomes procedure. By the time he's back in power, murder is a multi-tool. He uses it to punish failure, like when he kills the Muggle Studies professor who disappointed him. He uses it to instill fear, casually threatening his own followers with the same fate. He uses it to make a point, as with Charity, turning a human being into a live demonstration of what happens to traitors. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the psychology here, because this is where Tom Riddle fully disappears. Here's the pattern interrupt. Voldemort's most soul-destroying habit isn't creating Horcruxes, it's treating killing as admin work. When murder is routine, the mind has to protect itself. The easiest way is to stop feeling. That's what we see with Voldemort. The more he kills, the more he severs his soul's connection to other people as conscious, feeling beings. They turn into chess pieces, then into background noise. By the time the Second Wizarding War really gets going, he's not just fragmented. He's numb. Human life registers only as an obstacle to remove or an asset to exploit, which is going to be crucial when we look at how he underestimates the one life he never truly understood, Harry's. And that numbness is exactly what walks into Godric's Hollow on Halloween night, 1981. Voldemort doesn't arrive there as Tom Riddle the boy. He arrives as the Dark Lord who has turned people into obstacles, and the Potters are just the next pieces to remove from the board. First, he cuts through the simplest obstacle. James has no wand in hand, no time to fight back. One killing curse, and Harry's father is dead before he can even reach the stairs. There's no speech, no gloating duel, just clinical execution. Upstairs, though, things change. Lily is standing between Voldemort and the crib. He offers her a way out, and it's worth mentioning that this is one of the strangest moments in the whole series. Voldemort, who never spares anyone, actually tells her to stand aside. Not once, but more than once. We're going to be looking in this video at why that detail matters so much, but right here. It shows his mindset. He thinks choice is a bargaining chip, not a bond. Lily refuses. She chooses to die for Harry, fully aware of what's coming. When Voldemort finally casts the killing curse at the baby, the magic hits something he doesn't believe in, and therefore doesn't see. Sacrificial protection. Her deliberate, conscious choice to die in Harry's place wraps him in an ancient, primal magic. The curse rebounds, tears Voldemort's body apart, and rips his already shredded soul one step further. Now, in this video we're going to be discussing Horcruxes as dark-controlled rituals. But this is different. Every Horcrux he's made up to this point has involved careful planning and a chosen vessel. Here, the soul fragment has no anchor prepared. It's wild, unstable, and desperate. According to Dumbledore's theory, that piece latches on to the only living thing left in the room, Harry himself. No incantation, no deliberate spell, just a parasitic attachment to the nearest host. In this video, I'm going to be diving into why that makes Harry the most dangerous Horcrux of all. Voldemort never realizes what he's done, because his greatest blind spot is love as a magical force. He knows fear, he knows pain, he knows how to twist loyalty. But he cannot conceive that a mother's love could not only shield her child, but weaponize his own curse against him. To admit that would mean admitting that there's a power he can't learn, can't steal, and can't command. And that's the irony that sits at the heart of the entire saga. In trying to prevent the prophecy, Voldemort creates the one Horcrux that grows up human, loved, and capable of understanding him more clearly than anyone else. Harry carries his scar, his connection, even his thoughts. That accidental fragment becomes both Voldemort's shadow and his undoing, which we're going to be unpacking in the next section when we look at how that shared mind becomes a weapon turned back on its creator. So, now that we've set up that accidental Horcrux, we need to zoom in on what it actually felt like to live with it. Harry doesn't just carry Voldemort's scar, he grows up carrying Voldemort's damage, and that starts long before he ever hears the word Horcrux. First, think about Harry in the cupboard under the stairs. We're going to be looking at a childhood that is eerily close to Tom Riddle's, but with one crucial difference. Harry has nightmares he can't explain, flashes of green light, a high cold laugh. He makes glass vanish at the zoo, ends up on a rooftop, grows his hair back overnight. These outbursts of magic are framed as freakish by the Dursleys, who hammer into him that he is unwanted, wrong, fundamentally other. It's worth mentioning that this constant rejection echoes the orphanage that raised Tom. But where Tom responded with cruelty, Harry responds with confusion and quiet resilience. As we move into the Hogwarts years, the Voldemort connection becomes much harder to ignore. Harry speaks Parseltongue in the dueling club, shocking everyone, including himself. He hears voices in the walls that no one else can hear. In this video, we're going to be discussing how that isn't just a quirky talent. It's the soul fragment talking. After the graveyard in Goblet of Fire, the link intensifies. Harry's scar burns. When Voldemort is angry, he sees through Voldemort's eyes. He dreams of corridors in the Department of Mysteries. That mental bridge is a two-way street, but Voldemort arrogantly assumes he's the only one driving. In this video, I'm going to be diving into how that fragment doesn't only give Harry access to Voldemort's powers, it also tugs at his personality. we see Harry's temper spike in Order of the Phoenix. He shouts at Ron and Hermione, smashes Dumbledore's things, acts on impulse. Those traits are present in Harry anyway, but the Horcrux amplifies them, especially when Voldemort's emotions bleed through the link. However, the same connection lets Harry feel Voldemort's fear in the forest, his fury at failure, his panic when the Horcruxes start falling. Harry understands on a visceral level that under all the theatrics, Voldemort is terrified of death and humiliation. And here's the contrast that really exposes Voldemort's inner emptiness. Harry grows up abused, burdened with a piece of the darkest wizard alive literally lodged in his soul, and yet, again and again, he chooses compassion. He saves Dudley from Dementors. He refuses to abandon Draco in the Room of Requirement. He walks into the forest to die, so that others can live. Before we get started on the final confrontation in the next part of the video, we need to underline this: if anyone had an excuse to turn out like Voldemort, it's Harry. Harry becomes a living mirror. The fragment inside him shows us what Voldemort's soul might have been if it had ever learned to value connection over domination. The same pain that twists Voldemort into a tyrant pushes Harry towards self-sacrifice. And that mirror is going to be held up to Voldemort in the most brutal way possible when they finally face each other as soul against soul. And this is where a really tempting shortcut shows up in the fandom, the love potion explanation. It's neat, it's simple. Tom was conceived under a love potion, so of course he can't love. Case closed. But if we stop there, we actually let Voldemort off the hook in a way the story itself never does. It's worth mentioning that J.K. Rowling has talked about this directly. She said that because Merope used a love potion on Tom Riddle Sr., the child that resulted was predisposed to struggle with real attachment. Tom is born out of coercion rather than mutual affection, and the books back this up with how unnaturally cold he is, even as a child. However, predisposed is not the same thing as doomed. It loads the dice, but it doesn't fix the outcome. In this video, we're going to be discussing choice a lot, and this is where comparisons matter. Other characters come from horrific, loveless backgrounds. Harry grows up in a cupboard under the stairs. Snape grows up in a house filled with resentment and shouting. Both of them know neglect, humiliation, and fear. But Harry turns toward friendship and found family, and even Snape, for all his bitterness, forms one genuine, lifelong attachment in Lily. The trauma is real, but the responses are different. So what does Tom do when he's offered something better? First, there's Dumbledore's visit to the orphanage. Dumbledore doesn't just hand him a wand, he offers guidance, boundaries, and a place where Tom could belong. At Hogwarts, Slughorn singles him out, flatters him, invites him into the Slug Club. Teachers praise him, students admire him. He has every opportunity to experience connection as something mutual, something that could soften him. Instead, Tom studies people the way other students study textbooks. He clocks Dumbledore as a threat to be outmaneuvered. He sees Slughorn's favoritism as a lever, a way to pry secrets out of him about Horcruxes. Even the camaraderie of his Slytherin friends becomes a rehearsal space for command and control. These aren't relationships to Tom, they're assets. Here's the pattern interrupt. Look at the Death Eaters. They actually love him in their twisted way. Bellatrix worships him. Lucius stakes his status and his family on Voldemort's approval. After his return, they kneel, they risk Azkaban, they abandon their own moral compasses. In this video I'm going to be diving into their devotion later on, but for now, the key point is that Voldemort never once treats this as a bond. It's loyalty to be exploited, fear to be weaponized, and, if it falters, weakness to be punished. Over and over, Tom is handed the raw material of connection and he rejects it. Not once, but repeatedly. Each time he chooses suspicion over trust, control over vulnerability, he doesn't just confirm his belief that love is a lie or a liability, he also shaves off another sliver of his capacity to empathize at all. His inability to love is born from circumstance, yes, but it's maintained by a long series of conscious rejections. And those rejections are going to matter when we look at how he starts literally tearing his soul apart next. Those rejections of love don't stay abstract for long. They harden into something you can see, and one of the clearest places we see it is in the moment Tom Riddle decides that even his own name is a weakness. Before we get started on Horcruxes and ritual magic, we need to talk about something much simpler. Letters on a page. Tom Marvolo Riddle becomes I am Lord Voldemort. It's a neat anagram reveal in Chamber of Secrets, but it's worth mentioning that this isn't just a clever word game. It's a manifesto. Tom is literally rearranging the pieces of himself to announce a new reality, one in which he is self-created, self-crowned, and absolutely not the abandoned boy from Wool's orphanage. First, look at what he's throwing away. Tom is his Muggle father's name, the man who left his witch mother and never wanted him. Riddle despises that connection. He hunts his father down, murders him and the Riddles in Little Hangleton, and then goes one step further by refusing to carry the name at all. When he shows the anagram to Harry, there's a kind of theatrical satisfaction. He's not just explaining a puzzle, he's demonstrating that the old identity is dead. Killing the name is a symbolic second murder of Tom Riddle Sr., and at the same time, it's a killing of the child who bore that name. In this video, we're going to be discussing how that new name becomes a mask that eats the face. Once he calls himself Lord Voldemort, he doesn't present this persona as just another wizard. To his early followers, the young Death Eaters who once knew him as a brilliant Hogwarts student, he cultivates mystery. He is the heir of Slytherin. He is the one who can command the basilisk, slip through the castle unseen, and terrify even the ghosts. Rumors do a lot of the work for him, and he encourages that. The less they know about Tom, the more they can worship Voldemort. By the time we see him recruiting after Hogwarts, he leans into this almost mythic image. He appears rarely, speaks softly, and lets his magic speak loudly. People lower their voices to say his name long before the taboo curse exists. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the idea that this is performance as much as power. He's directing his own legend, making sure his followers fear the Dark Lord, not question the boy who once asked Slughorn about Horcruxes. And here's the cost. The more he plays that role, the less space there is for anything human. Doubt, regret, even fleeting affection would crack the illusion of absolute strength he's selling. So he pushes those things down, then cuts them out, then replaces them with something colder. By the time he is fully Voldemort, Tom Riddle isn't just hiding backstage. He's become a liability, a ghost of vulnerability that the Dark Lord would have to destroy completely to keep the performance going. Next, we're going to see how Horcruxes let him try to do exactly that. one murder at a time. And once Tom starts trying to cut that liability out of himself, the next logical step is to build a world where no one around him is allowed to be whole either. That's where the first Wizarding War really shows us what Voldemort has become. In this video, we're going to be discussing that war not just as a backdrop, but as a mirror of his inner collapse. On the surface, it looks like a classic rise of a Dark Lord, masked followers, midnight raids, the sky lit green with a dark mark. Underneath, it's a network held together by the same thing that's holding his shattered soul together: fear, denial, and the refusal to face what's been broken. First, let's anchor ourselves in what the First Wizarding War actually looks like in canon. Death Eaters move through Wizarding Britain in masks and hoods, anonymous but terrifyingly coordinated. Families disappear. Muggle-borns are hunted. The Dark Mark hangs over houses as a calling card and a warning. Inside the Ministry, people like Barty Crouch Jr. and other sympathizers quietly sabotage justice, while others are simply too frightened to resist. It's worth mentioning that by the time Voldemort goes after the Potters, his influence is everywhere, but no one really knows who they can trust. How does he pull this off? He doesn't just recruit, he harvests what's already inside people. To pure blood supremacists, he promises the future they think they deserve. To ambitious students like Bellatrix and the Lestrangers, he offers power and a thrill of sanctioned cruelty. To cowards and opportunists, he sells protection, join him, or be crushed when he wins. In this video, I'm going to be diving into those motivations more later on, but here we can already see the pattern. Voldemort never creates loyalty from love, only from pre-existing pride and fear. The tools he uses to bind them are brutal reflections of his own magical self-harm. The Dark Mark isn't just a brand, it's a tether. A constant reminder burned into the skin that your body is now a doorway he can summon through. The unforgivable curses become initiation rites. Crucio trains them to equate obedience with survival. Imperio teaches them to violate other minds the way he's violated his own. Avada Kedavra forces them to cross the line into murder, creating shared guilt so heavy that turning back feels impossible. This whole external system is basically his psyche turned inside out. Just as his soul is split into Horcruxes, his movement is split into factions driven by different prejudices and private agendas. Just as he lives in constant paranoia that a fragment might be destroyed, he keeps his followers isolated, suspicious, and competing for favor. Before we get started on the Horcruxes themselves, it's crucial to see how every promotion in his ranks actually costs him trust. The more power he gains, the more he expects betrayal. He hides his true plans, lies even to his closest servants, and punishes initiative as easily as failure. The empire grows, but the circle around him shrinks. That childhood isolation in the orphanage, the belief that no one could ever be safe to need, now rules an entire war. And the terrifying thing is that Horcruxes are about to make that isolation permanent in a way even Voldemort doesn't fully understand yet. That isolation we just talked about doesn't stay abstract for long. It hardens into policy, into strategy, and finally into destiny the moment Voldemort hears a few whispered lines in a dingy room above the Hog's head. Before we get started on the prophecy itself, we need the setup. Sybil Trelawney, in one of her rare true trances, delivers a message to Dumbledore. A child will be born as the 7th month dies, a child with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord, marked by him as his equal, and either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. Snape overhears only part of this and runs to Voldemort with what he thinks is priceless information. That incomplete message is everything. Voldemort hears a child is coming who can destroy you. No mention of choice, no mention of love, just a threat with a date stamp. 2 boys fit the description, Harry Potter and Neville Longbottom, but Voldemort doesn't weigh them equally. He chooses Harry. In this video, we're going to be discussing why that choice is so revealing. Harry is a half-blood, like Tom Riddle. He's raised outside the wizarding world, like Tom. Neville, by contrast, is a pure blood from an old family. Voldemort projects himself onto Harry, seeing the half-blood child as the one who must be dangerous, the one who must matter. The prophecy doesn't tell him which boy to fear. His own obsession with blood and reflected threat does that for him. Here's the pattern interrupt. We often treat the prophecy as fate, as if Voldemort is trapped from the moment Trelawney speaks. But Dumbledore is very clear. It's Voldemort's response that makes it real. His decision to go after a baby, to walk into a family home and murder a child in his crib, is not strategic brilliance. It's pure terror of death and of losing control over his story. In this video, I'm going to be diving into how that fear is actually another cut to his already damaged soul. To prevent a possible future defeat, he commits an act that is magically, morally, and psychologically catastrophic. He kills James. He kills Lily. He attempts to kill Harry. And the moment he turns his wand on that child, he marks him as his equal, just as the prophecy foretells. The scar, the shared wand core, the strange mental connection later on, all grow out of this one night. It's worth mentioning that Dumbledore points out a brutal irony here. If Voldemort had ignored the prophecy, or even chosen differently, Harry might never have become his greatest threat. By attacking, Voldemort forges the very weapon that will undo him and accidentally tears his soul yet again, creating the unintended Horcrux lodged inside Harry. So, in trying to secure immortality, Voldemort loses his body, another soul fragment, and the war's decisive advantage. The attempted infanticide that should have guaranteed his victory instead guarantees that he can never truly be safe, no matter how many Horcruxes he makes. And the next stage of his soul's destruction will come when he tries to rebuild himself from that ruin. And from that ruin, what rises isn't a tragic wanderer or a misunderstood ghost. It's something far thinner, far hungrier, and far more dangerous. This is the phase of Voldemort's existence that the wizarding world barely sees, but it's the stretch of 13 years that finishes the job his Horcruxes started. After Godric's Hollow, Voldemort describes himself as less than the meanest ghost. That's not drama, that's a technical downgrade. He is not a proper spirit with a fixed form or a stable personality. He's a shred of soul that refuses to pass on, clinging to life by doing the only thing it still knows how to do: invade. He possesses snakes, small animals, and very weak-willed humans, burning through them as they sicken and die. There is no community, no conversation, no real rest. Just survival. In this video, we're going to be discussing how that kind of existence doesn't just punish Voldemort, it reshapes what's left of him. When you have no body, you lose ordinary experience. there is no taste of food, no warmth of a fire, no simple pleasure of holding a wand in your own hand. All the subtle feedback that a human body gives the soul is gone. What remains are the loudest drives that were already there, the hunger for power, the terror of death, the hatred of anyone who still has what you've lost. It's worth mentioning that this isn't like being nearly headless Nick. Ghosts are echoes of whole people, stuck but still recognizably themselves. Voldemort is different. He's already hacked his soul into pieces with Horcruxes, and now that already damaged fragment is floating around without even the thin restraint of human senses. If you strip away pain and pleasure but keep ambition and rage, what do you think grows stronger? Most of this time is spent in Albania, far from the centers of wizarding life. We hear about him, a formless, helpless thing, hiding in forests, feeding on the life force of snakes and parasitizing animals and eventually Quirrell. This is not an accident of geography. The Dark Lord who once commanded armies now slithers in the underbrush, literally living off cold-blooded predators. He already loved snakes, of course, but these years force a kind of full identification. He becomes, in practice, what he always admired: silent, venomous, efficient, and utterly unconcerned with mammalian warmth. In this video, I'm going to be diving into how that wraith-like exile also cuts his last threads to humanity. Before we get started on his resurrection later, we have to see that without a human nervous system, there is almost nothing to remind him what it feels like to be a boy in an orphanage, a student at Hogwarts, even a charismatic leader. No heartbeat racing in fear, no tears, no physical fatigue. Just a thin, cold awareness circling the same obsessions. So when he finally regains a body in the graveyard, what returns is not Tom Riddle restored. It's a crystallized set of drives wearing flesh, domination, survival, revenge. Almost nothing human is left to balance them, and that's exactly the creature Harry will have to face next. If you haven't seen that video yet, then go and check it out after this, because Voldemort's rebirth ritual shows how terrifying that new body really is. So when that cauldron boils in the little Hangleton graveyard, what you're seeing isn't just a Dark Lord coming back. You're watching a body being stitched together out of 3 relationships Tom Riddle has already destroyed, and in this video we're going to be discussing how every ingredient is really a comment on his soul. First, let's lay out the ritual itself. We have bone of the father, unknowingly given; flesh of the servant, willingly given; blood of the enemy, forcibly taken. Each piece is stolen in a different way, and each one is taken without any real consent, which fits Voldemort perfectly. He doesn't ask, he takes, and he rewrites the meaning of every bond he touches. We start with bone of the father. Wormtail literally digs up Tom Riddle Sr.'s grave, takes a bone, and drops it into the cauldron. This is the man Voldemort lured out of his house and murdered years earlier, precisely because he represented everything Tom wanted to cut out of himself: his muggle blood, his humiliating origins, the weakness of being abandoned. It's worth mentioning that Voldemort doesn't just kill his father and walk away, he goes back and plunders the corpse, using that bone as raw material. The past he hates becomes the foundation of his new body. But that symbolism is twisted. Bone means structure, ancestry, the thing that holds you up. Voldemort takes the literal bones of the family he despises and forces them to hold him together. He's not reconciling with his muggle side, he's enslaving it. The part of his story he refuses to accept is nailed into place as scaffolding, which is exactly how he treats anything human in himself. Not something to heal, but something to weaponize. Next comes Flesh of the Servant. Wormtail cuts off his own hand and drops it into the cauldron, screaming, "On the surface, this is loyalty. This is a follower sacrificing his body for his master." However, we know Wormtail isn't brave or devoted, he's terrified. Voldemort demands not just obedience, but mutilation. To belong to him is to be carved up. In this video, I'm going to be diving into how that reflects Voldemort's view of other people. They are spare parts. If you serve him, your body is collateral, your pain is irrelevant, and your identity is erased the moment it's useful to him. Finally, blood of the enemy. Voldemort chooses Harry's blood because he believes it will break Lily's sacrificial protection and allow him to touch Harry again. He thinks he's outsmarted old magic. But of course, he's misread it. By taking Harry's blood into his veins, he actually anchors Lily's protection inside his own body. The very thing he steals becomes the thing that lets Harry survive him, again and again. That's the tragic irony. The enemy's blood doesn't just restore him, it booby-traps his existence. So this new body is built entirely on violation, grave robbery, forced self-harm, and a theft of a child's blood. It's a physical shell grown from exploitation, a mirror of a soul that can only continue by consuming others. And the really chilling part is what that does to everyone bound up in it, because the consequences of that night don't end in the graveyard. And those consequences lead us straight to the one person Voldemort never manages to consume or control: Albus Dumbledore. The graveyard gives us the body, but Dumbledore is the mirror, and that's what Voldemort fears even more than death. In the Little Hangleton graveyard, Voldemort stands reborn and boasts to his followers. He lists his triumphs, mocks his enemies, and then drops a line that's easy to skim past. He says there is one wizard who always feared to face him: Dumbledore. He frames it as proof of Dumbledore's cowardice, as if avoiding a duel is some kind of moral failure. But that's projection. Voldemort has to believe Dumbledore is weak, because the alternative is unbearable. Dumbledore's real power over him isn't just raw magical skill, although of course that's there. We see it in the Ministry duel, in the way Dumbledore controls fire and water like extensions of his own will. The deeper threat is that Dumbledore understands what Voldemort has spent his entire life denying. That love, sacrifice, and even mortality have a kind of magic dark curses can't touch. In this video, we're going to be discussing how that knowledge makes Dumbledore uniquely dangerous to a soul like Tom's. It's worth mentioning that Dumbledore has watched Tom Riddle from the very beginning. He's the first wizard Tom ever meets. He sees the stolen objects in the orphanage drawer, the carefully hidden trophies that already echo Horcruxes. Later at Hogwarts, when every other teacher is charmed by their brilliant head boy, Dumbledore is the one who quietly keeps Tom at arm's length. That steady, unblinking scrutiny is something Voldemort never forgives. We really see this clash years later in the defense against the dark arts job interview. Tom returns to Hogwarts transformed, already calling himself Voldemort, already surrounded by rumors of dark magic. He turns on the old charm, speaks politely, pretends this is just a career move. But Dumbledore does not play along. He refuses the job, yes, but more importantly, he lets Voldemort know he sees the truth behind the mask. The office grows colder, the shadows lengthen, and for a moment the performance cracks. In this video, I'm going to be diving into that moment because it tells us something crucial. Voldemort's hatred of Dumbledore is really hatred of being known. Every Horcrux is an attempt to control the narrative of his own existence, to script a version of himself that can never be judged or ended. Dumbledore ruins that. He names Tom's cruelty, he traces the pattern of the murders, he understands the cost of each soul splitting. A fractured soul can't stand that kind of clarity. Here's the pattern interrupt. Voldemort doesn't just fear Dumbledore as an enemy, he fears him as a comparison. Dumbledore is what Tom Riddle could have become, a brilliant, ambitious wizard who once chased power and immortality, then stopped, and chose to accept loss instead of tearing his soul apart. Before we get started on the final unraveling of Voldemort's soul, we need to hold on to this. Every time he hears Dumbledore's name, he's hearing the echo of the road not taken, and that's a ghost no Horcrux can silence. And the tragic irony is this: the one man who keeps reminding him of that road not taken is also the one mind Voldemort can never fully conquer. That failure pushes him deeper into the only arena where he believes he can never be beaten, the battlefield of thoughts and memories. So in this video we're going to be discussing two branches of magic that define that inner war, legilimency and occlumency. Legilimency is the magical art of entering and reading another person's mind, sifting through thoughts, memories and emotions. Occlumency is its mirror image, the discipline of sealing your own mind, creating walls, decoys and blank spaces that keep intruders out. Most witches and wizards struggle with even one of these, but Tom Riddle is terrifyingly gifted at both. We see the shadow of this talent as early as the orphanage. He can sense things about people, predict their reactions, and then weaponize that knowledge. At Hogwarts, that instinct becomes refined legilimency. He learns to reach into people's fears and secrets, and by the time he's Voldemort, he uses it like a scalpel. He scans his followers for disloyalty, detects lies before they're spoken, and presses on exactly the terror that will make them obey. The result is a worldview where other people aren't companions or rivals, they're open books he has the right to read and rewrite. It's worth mentioning that this isn't just about power in battle. In the graveyard, in the Ministry, even when he's possessing Harry in Order of the Phoenix, Voldemort treats minds as territory to be invaded. Every successful intrusion confirms his belief that intimacy is just another form of control. When you can see the moment someone decides to betray you, or the memory they most regret, why would you ever trust them as a person again? But there's a price. To be that skilled at breaking into minds, he has to be even more ruthless about protecting his own. Occlumency becomes his permanent state. He doesn't just close the door, he bricks it up. He buries guilt over murders, doubt about Horcruxes, even that flicker of recognition when he hears Dumbledore's name. And because he never allows those thoughts to surface, he never has to admit that they exist. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the idea that this is self-defense and self-destruction at the same time. This creates a brutal feedback loop. The more he invades other people's minds, the more he sees them as weak, fearful, and easily manipulated. The more he hides his own mind, the less he ever experiences a genuine and guarded interaction. There's no confession, no honest argument, no moment where he risks being known. Only interrogation and concealment. Before we get started on the final collapse of his soul, we need to see that by turning his inner life into a fortress, Voldemort ensures he never has to face himself. But he also makes it impossible for that shattered soul to ever heal. And there's one person who proves that fortress isn't as airtight as Voldemort thinks. One soul he never fully maps, never truly owns. That, of course, is Severus Snape. In this video, we're going to be discussing how Snape's double game exposes the limits of Voldemort's control. Because Snape is the one Death Eater whose inner life Voldemort consistently misreads. First, we need to trace Snape's journey. He starts as a young Death Eater drawn to the dark arts, obsessed with power, and humiliated by James. But under all of that, there's Lily, the childhood friend he loves, the one person who treats him with real kindness. When Snape delivers the prophecy to Voldemort and realizes it has put Lily in danger, his world cracks. After Voldemort kills her, Snape's guilt is not a passing emotion. It becomes the core of his existence. He goes to Dumbledore, offers anything, even his life, in exchange for protecting her. When that fails, he dedicates every breath to making sure her son survives. This is a man who chooses a life of constant risk, isolation and self-hatred, purely out of love and lifelong remorse. However, that inner transformation never reaches Voldemort, because Snape's greatest weapon isn't a curse, it's his mind. In this video, I'm going to be diving into how Snape uses occlumency to feed Voldemort just enough truth to stay believable. He really does hate James. He really does resent Harry's arrogance and resemblance to his father. He really does despise being exposed and mocked. Snape takes those genuine feelings and lets Voldemort see them, while walling off the one forbidden thing, his love for Lily and his loyalty to Dumbledore. It's worth mentioning that we see this in key canon moments. When Snape begs Voldemort to spare Lily, Voldemort interprets it as a selfish request from a possessive follower, not a plea born of love. After Dumbledore's death, Snape has just killed the one wizard Voldemort fears, on Voldemort's own orders. From Voldemort's perspective, that's airtight proof of loyalty. He never imagines that the murder was prearranged with Dumbledore, an act of mercy and strategy rather than betrayal. Voldemort also completely buys into Snape's hatred of Harry as pure. He sees a bitter teacher tormenting the boy who lived and thinks, naturally, this man will never protect the child of his bully. But that's exactly the point. Voldemort cannot conceive of a soul driven by love and remorse so deep that it will endure humiliation from the object of its sacrifice without ever demanding recognition. Who would live like that, if not for something Voldemort cannot feel? Snape's hidden inner life shows us the blind spot at the center of Voldemort's power. He is brilliant at breaking people who are driven by fear, ambition, or cruelty. He can terrorize, bribe, or flatter those souls into obedience. But when love is the engine, his legitimacy fails him. He looks into Snape and only recognizes the parts that look like himself. Before we get started on the final unraveling of Voldemort's soul, we have to ask, what happens when that blind spot finally meets the one thing he fears most? When that blind spot finally collides with open resistance, we see exactly what Voldemort has built. Not a movement, but a prison. The Second Wizarding War is where his hollow soul stops being an abstract idea and turns into a lived atmosphere for everyone in the wizarding world. Under his control, everyday life becomes a ritual of fear. The Muggle-born Registration Commission is a perfect example. On paper, it's a bureaucratic body that is going to be verifying magical ancestry. In practice, it's a conveyor belt to humiliation, theft, and Azkaban. We watch Muggle-borns dragged into that courtroom under a giant stone witch accused of stealing magic they were born with. Their wands are confiscated, their identities erased, and the whole thing is staged like a twisted show trial to keep the rest of the population terrified. Public executions and disappearances follow the same pattern. First, Voldemort takes over the ministry. After, he weaponizes it. People vanish for the crime of having the wrong bloodline, the wrong friends, or the wrong newspaper on their kitchen table. Bodies and Patronus messages at the wedding, the bodies hanging over Diagon Alley, the constant Dementor presence around Muggle towns. All of this tells you one thing. This is not a regime that wants love. It only wants silence. And then there's Hogwarts. The safest place Harry ever knew is turned into a fear factory. With Snape as headmaster and Acaros in charge of discipline, detentions become torture sessions. Students are forced to practice the Cruciatus Curse on their classmates. The school that once represented Tom Riddle's chance at belonging is now his mirror image fortress, where curiosity dies and cruelty is homework. Inside Voldemort's own ranks, the cracks are just as revealing. Lucius Malfoy, who once flaunted his dark mark like a status symbol, is reduced to a shaking, desperate shell, terrified for his family and constantly failing to please his master. Bellatrix, on the other hand, leans into fanatic devotion. She laughs when others are tortured, begs for Voldemort's approval, and treats serving him like a twisted romance. Both reactions are extreme, but neither is healthy loyalty. They're symptoms of a leader who can only inspire obsession or terror. In this video, we're going to be discussing how that plays out in his leadership style. Voldemort's impatience grows, his cruelty escalates, and he starts killing or maiming his own followers for the slightest failure. We see it with the way he treats the Malfoys, with his casual use of Nagini on Charity Burbage, and with his rage at the Death Eaters who let Harry escape from the Seven Potters battle. He doesn't correct them, he breaks them. Here's the pattern interrupt. For all his legitimacy and paranoia, Voldemort isn't actually overcautious. He's overexposed. In this video, I'm going to be diving into why he cannot trust anyone. Because deep down, he knows exactly what he himself would do in their place. He would betray, manipulate, and abandon. It's worth mentioning that this is the final logical step of a soul that cannot love. If you cannot love, you also cannot believe that anyone else's loyalty is real. You can command, you can threaten, you can promise rewards, but you cannot inspire faith. And when that regime meets sustained resistance from Dumbledore's army inside Hogwarts, from the Order, and finally from Harry walking willingly into the forest, fear is no longer enough. Before we get started on Voldemort's last stand and the ultimate consequences of that fear-built empire, we have to follow him into the one place he never wanted to go, back into his own shattered soul at the Battle of Hogwarts. So when we follow Harry and Dumbledore into those memories and ruined houses, we're not just on a scavenger hunt for magic trinkets. We're watching Dumbledore perform an autopsy on Voldemort's soul, laying out each piece on the table and asking, where did this go wrong? First, Dumbledore has to prove the pieces even exist. He doesn't start with a spell or a prophecy. He starts with Tom Riddle's life. In this video, we're going to be discussing just how methodical that is, because Dumbledore looks at the orphanage reports, the trophies Tom stole, the way he terrorized other children and then charmed every adult at Hogwarts, and he sees a boy obsessed with trophies and permanence. That pattern, plus Slughorn's altered memory about Horcruxes, tells him Voldemort hasn't just made one. He's aiming for something greater, a soul split again and again. Dumbledore then adds the symbolism. The diary that possessed Ginny isn't just a weapon. It's Hogwarts-era Tom in a bottle, proof that a fragment of soul can think and act. The gaunt ring is hidden in the shack of his pure blood ancestors, wrapped up with the Peveril resurrection stone he covets. The Slytherin locket, Hufflepuff cup, Ravenclaw diadem, Nagini, every object is a monument to a lie he believes about himself. He is heir, collector, conqueror, master of death. Of course he'd anchor his soul in those myths. From there, the retrieval missions become case studies. The cave with the fake locket isn't just a creepy set piece. It's a reconstruction of Riddle's first childhood victory, luring 2 orphans to the seaside and hurting them where nobody could see. Dumbledore drinks the potion that forces him to relive helplessness and guilt, then faces the Inferi, literal bodies dragged up by Voldemort's refusal to let the dead rest. When they find only a fake locket, it proves something crucial. Voldemort's arrogance is big enough that he assumes no one will ever outthink him. Compare that with the ring in the gaunt shack. Dumbledore walks into the wreckage of Voldemort's family tree and finds the ring sitting there, booby trapped with a curse that will kill anyone greedy enough to wear it. But Dumbledore is tempted not by power, rather by the resurrection stone and the people he's lost. He puts it on, takes the curse, and that single moment tells us undoing soul damage doesn't just cost the perpetrator. It burns the healers too. Each destroyed Horcrux peels away a specific delusion. The diary kills the fantasy that his schoolboy self was pure genius. The ring shatters his claim to noble blood. The locket exposes the emptiness behind his Slytherin pride. By the time Harry and Dumbledore have tracked the pattern through memory after memory, the Horcrux hunt has become a forensic report on Voldemort's life choices, showing that his immortality plan is actually a blueprint for self-destruction. In this video, I'm going to be diving into how that blueprint finally collapses in Voldemort's last stand. But first, we need to see what happens when those soul fragments start dying faster than he can deny what he's done. So now we reach the moment where that blueprint for self-destruction cashes in. Not in a duel, not in a grand speech, in a quiet walk through the trees where Harry decides he's going to let Voldemort kill him. In this video, we're going to be discussing how that walk into the Forbidden Forest is not just Harry being brave, but Voldemort's soul finally running out of places to hide. After Snape's memories, Harry realizes the last Horcrux isn't an object he can hunt down. It's him. The boy who lived is literally the container for the piece of soul that flew out of Voldemort the night Lily died. And that means the only way to finish the Horcrux hunt is to sacrifice himself. Narratively, that revelation is brutal. Harry has just learned that Snape was protecting him, that Dumbledore always knew this end was coming, and that he has to walk back to the man who murdered his parents and let it happen again. However, he doesn't run. He leaves the castle, slipping past the defenders who still think he's their best weapon. His acceptance is already a contrast to Tom Riddle, who spent his entire life twisting magic to avoid the fate Harry is now walking toward. As he enters the forest, Harry turns the resurrection stone in his hand. It's worth mentioning that this is the same legendary artifact the Gaunts bragged about, the same symbol Voldemort mocked by turning it into a cursed ring. Harry uses it not for power, but for company. James, Lily, Sirius, and Lupin appear, walking beside him, not shielding him from death, but steadying his steps toward it. Where Voldemort tried to conquer death with Horcruxes, Harry meets it with a family he can't touch, and a calm Voldemort has never known. This is where the magic starts to bend. Harry is choosing to die, fully aware, without fighting back. Before we get started on the mechanics, notice the Echo, a young person, willingly standing between Voldemort and others, motivated by love rather than fear. Lily did it in a nursery. Harry does it in a forest. That parallel is not accidental, it's the key. When Voldemort finally casts the killing curse, the green light hits Harry, but it doesn't work the way it did on Lily or on Cedric. The body collapses, but Harry's soul is sent to the limbo like King's Cross, while the fragment of Voldemort's soul inside him is the thing that actually dies. The curse, ironically, does exactly what Voldemort wanted all along. It targets his own soul. In this video, I'm going to be diving into why that's even possible. Harry's willing sacrifice creates a fresh layer of protective magic, a second generation of Lily's shield that spreads over everyone at Hogwarts who fought for him. At the same time, Voldemort's soul is so shredded from repeated Horcrux creation that it can't endure another split. There is no structural integrity left. The curse can't tear Harry's soul away, but it can dislodge the parasite clinging to it. After that moment, Voldemort has no Horcrux in Harry, no secret anchor in the boy's scar. His soul is as close to mortal as it can be, while still being monstrously damaged, incapable of love, and locked into his choices. The last safety net is gone. The Dark Lord has to stand on what's left of himself. And as we're going to see next, when he walks back into Hogwarts, that ruined soul is about to collide with the one kind of magic he never learned to understand. When that ruined soul collides with love, we don't cut straight to another duel. We cut to silence. To white. To King's Cross. Harry wakes up in a space that looks like the station, but scrubbed clean of all the usual noise and grime. No crowds, no steam, just endless white and that echoing roof above him. At first it feels peaceful, almost like a reset button for the story. But then he hears it. Something small, something whimpering. Under a bench, there's that pitiful, flayed, baby-like creature, raw and skinless, shuddering and trying to hide from touch. This is one of those moments where the series stops hinting and shows you the truth. Dumbledore never outright says, Harry, this is Voldemort's soul, but he gets very close. He tells Harry that the thing cannot be helped, that he and Harry cannot comfort it, and that it is beyond their aid. The copy of advanced potion making that he found allowed him to ace Slughorn's class, but this copy of Voldemort's inner self is something no spell, no potion, no countercurse can repair. It's worth mentioning that this is the visual answer to a question the books have been building for years. What does it actually cost to rip your soul over and over? We hear about Horcruxes. We see the ring, the diary, the locket. However, King's Cross is the only time we're going to be allowed to look directly at the result. That flayed thing is a soul that has been split and split again, and soaked in cruelty until it cannot grow anymore. It's permanently infantile, permanently in agony. In this video, we're going to be discussing Riddle's choices, and this is where they all cash out. Every murder, from his father to Bertha Jorkins to Charity Burbage, doesn't just move the plot forward, it drags his soul backward. The more he tried to protect himself from death, the less of himself there actually was to protect. By the time Harry sees that creature, Voldemort has become his own Horcrux, a vessel for pain that can't hold anything else. Here's the pattern interrupt. Harry is in the same limbo. He's been hit by the killing curse. He's talking to Dumbledore in the afterlife. So why doesn't Harry look like that? Why is he whole, clothed, unscarred, able to choose whether to go back? Dumbledore spells it out. Harry walked into death willingly to save others. Voldemort has always killed to run from death. Same station, same threshold, completely different souls. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the idea that this scene quietly closes the door on a last-minute redemption for Voldemort. Not because of prophecy, not because he was born evil, but because choice, repeated and hardened over decades, has consequences that become irreversible. By King's Cross, the damage is done, and when Harry chooses to go back, we're about to see what happens when that broken soul meets the one thing it can't control: other people's courage. And when Harry chooses to go back, we're about to see what happens when that broken soul meets the one thing it can't control: other people's courage. We land in the Great Hall. The battle has crashed through the castle, and now it all funnels into this one ruined room. Bodies lie scattered on the floor, rubble litters the house tables, and the survivors form a rough circle, a living arena, as Harry steps out from under the invisibility cloak and finally reveals himself to Voldemort. No more hiding, no more prophecy talk in whispers. Everyone is watching. In this video, we're going to be discussing why this duel is nothing like the flashy graveyard spectacle from Goblet of Fire. First, the atmosphere is completely different. There are no chanting Death Eaters, no eerie grave markers. There is Mrs. Weasley, McGonagall, Kingsley, the Weasleys clustered around Fred's body, and students who have watched friends die. Voldemort stands at the center of that circle, but for the first time, he is not the unquestioned center of power. Harry starts explaining. He walks Voldemort and everyone else through the Elder Wand's allegiance. This is important, because the wand is the quiet judge in the room. Dumbledore disarmed Grindelwald, so the wand passed to him. Draco disarmed Dumbledore on the astronomy tower, so the wand's loyalty passed to Draco, not to Snape, no matter what Voldemort wanted to believe. And then, in Malfoy Manor, Harry disarmed Draco. The Elder Wand knows that. Voldemort doesn't. So when Voldemort raises the Elder Wand and casts Avada Kedavra, the spell is coming from a wand that will not truly serve him. In this video, I'm going to be diving into that moment where the green jet of light meets Harry's Expelliarmus. The twin spells collide, but the Elder Wand's allegiance means the killing curse rebounds, whipping back on its caster. It's worth mentioning that this isn't a random magical glitch. It's the exact opposite of what happened in the graveyard, where shared cause locked them together. Here, loyalty decides the outcome. However, the wand alone doesn't kill Voldemort. What really matters is that, by this point, every Horcrux is gone. The diary, the ring, the locket, the cup, the diadem, Nagini, and the accidental piece in Harry have all been destroyed. For the first time since his teenage years, Voldemort is just a man casting a spell. No backup lives, no anchors. When his own curse comes back at him, there is nothing left for him to fall into. And then we get the most quietly devastating detail. There is no explosion of dark magic. No demon ripped from the sky. His body simply falls, ordinary and lifeless, in the middle of the Great Hall. The myth of the Dark Lord dies with less spectacle than Dumbledore's fall from the tower, which is exactly the point. Without the Horcruxes, without fear, he is small. In the end, Voldemort dies exactly as he feared, alone in a crowd, defeated by love and loyalty he never understood, and bound by the same mortal rules he spent his life trying to outrun. And that sets us up to look at what's left behind when a soul like that finally stops running. So, if Voldemort dies small and alone, that raises the uncomfortable question: did he ever really have a chance to be anything else? In this video, we're going to be discussing Tom Riddle's what-if moments, the crossroads where his story could have bent in a different direction. First, we need to go back to the orphanage, before Hogwarts, before wands and house points and trophies. We meet an 11-year-old who is already stealing, already hurting other children, already collecting trophies from his victims. That's chilling, and it's worth mentioning that Dumbledore senses it immediately. He doesn't just see a talented boy, he sees a child who enjoys control. But even here, there is technically still a door open. A different guardian, real therapy, or consistent boundaries from adults who understood magic and trauma could have started to challenge his belief that power and fear are the only safe options. Then we move to Hogwarts and a Chamber of Secrets. Tom discovers he is the heir of Slytherin and chooses to unleash the basilisk on Muggle-borns. This is not a temper tantrum. It's a calculated act of terrorism by a teenager who has already decided some lives don't matter. However, after Myrtle's death, the school almost closes, and Tom's future is threatened. He could have taken that as a wake-up call. Instead, he frames Hagrid, protects his own reputation, and locks that first murder into a diary that will become his initial Horcrux. By the time we reach Slughorn's office, the slope is already very steep. In this video, I'm going to be diving into that conversation because it's the moment he moves from dark curiosity to a plan. He asks about Horcruxes, not in horror, but with clinical interest. Slughorn's flattered, then horrified, then complicit in his own silence. Contrast that with Dumbledore, who keeps trying to guide Tom, offering him staff positions, trying to tether him to the school, to community, to any version of belonging that isn't built on domination. Now, some people argue it was inevitable. Tom shows psychopathic traits early on, lack of empathy, superficial charm, delight in manipulation. Add raw magical talent and almost no external checks, and you get a boy who learns that rules are for other people. But we have counterexamples. Snape is abused and angry and obsessed with dark arts, yet he claws his way back through love and remorse. Draco is raised in hatred and still lowers his wand on the tower. Even Harry, with his own trauma, refuses the Hallows as a path to power. So where is the point of no return? Not the orphanage, not even the chamber. The real point is the accumulation of chosen cruelties. Myrtle, the Gaunts, the Riddles, Hepzibah Smith, each murder carving away another piece until he decides not just to survive death once, but to shatter his soul again and again. That repeated. Deliberate splitting is Tom Riddle signing a contract with his own monstrosity. And this is where it comes back to you. Our souls don't break in one grand moment either. They harden or soften through small choices, the lie we tell, the apology we skip, the person we dehumanize because it's convenient. Before we get started on the final, ugliest stages of his transformation, we need to look at one more thing. What Voldemort fears most when he looks in the mirror, and why that fear might not be as distant from us as we want to believe. When Voldemort looks in the mirror, he sees a god. We see a monster. But under all the magic and murder, the blueprint of how he got there is painfully human. In this video, we're going to be discussing how Tom Riddle's downfall starts in a place that isn't unique at all: fear. First, there's the orphanage, the feeling that no one is permanent, that love can vanish overnight. A hurt child learns a brutal lesson. If you never need anyone, they can never abandon you. That decision, that quiet little promise to himself, is far more believable than his later resurrection in a graveyard. It's worth mentioning that this is where Voldemort is less a fantasy villain and more a dark mirror. His obsession with control, with never being at someone else's mercy again, is just an extreme version of something we all feel when we're scared. We cling to routines, to perfectionism, to being the smartest in the room, because losing control feels like dying. Tom just takes that instinct and supercharges it with magic and cruelty. And once you're terrified of needing people, the next step is to downgrade them. We see Riddle do this very early, when he's stealing from other children and collecting trophies from his punishments. They're not people to him, they're experiments. Later, at Hogwarts, that same mindset becomes ideology. Muggles are filth. Blood traitors are weak. Anyone who loves a muggle like his own mother is pathetic. The label comes first, the cruelty comes after. Here's the uncomfortable part. Dehumanizing others doesn't start with unforgivable curses. It starts with an eye roll, with a stereotype, with deciding someone is less because of their background, their beliefs, their mistakes. When Voldemort calls muggles vermin, it's just the loud, magical version of something that can happen in any school, any workplace, any comment section. Now, contrast that with the characters who actually survive their pain. Lupin is literally a monster once a month, but he refuses to let that define who he is the rest of the time. He leans on friends, on the Order, on Tonks. Harry is full of anger and fear, especially after Sirius dies, but he keeps choosing to trust others, to grieve with them instead of shutting them out. Even Dumbledore, who chases power in his youth and pays a devastating price, eventually admits his flaws and lets that guilt guide him away from the Hallows. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the idea that the real horror of Voldemort isn't his serpentine face or his killing curse. It's how plausible the first steps are. A child is hurt. He decides vulnerability is dangerous. He discovers he can make people afraid instead of risking being afraid himself. Every time he chooses power over empathy, the next choice gets easier. So when we look at Voldemort, we're not just looking at a distant fantasy. We're looking at a warning. This is what happens when you choose control over connection, superiority over compassion, again and again, until there's nothing left to love. After this, we're going to trace how those choices finally crystallize into Horcruxes, and how each one doesn't just anchor him to life, but chains him to the very fear he's trying to escape. So when we zoom out now, we're not just looking at 7 cursed objects. We're looking at one life, one soul, cracking along the exact same fault lines from the very beginning. Tom's story starts before he's even born, with a loveless conception under a love potion. That's the first fracture. He enters the world incapable of real attachment, then lands in an orphanage that only confirms what he already suspects: no one is coming to save him. The wardrobe where he hides stolen trophies, the rabbits he torments, the children he terrorizes in secret. All of that is Tom learning that control feels safer than connection. Then Hogwarts opens its doors. Suddenly, the strange boy from Wool's orphanage becomes the charming prefect. Professors praise him, classmates follow him, and he learns to wear charisma like a mask. In this video, we're going to be discussing how that schoolboy who could have chosen to use his brilliance for good, instead uses it to manipulate, to lie, and to dig deeper into blood purity and the dark arts. The first murder, his father and grandparents, is where fear of insignificance hardens into a decision: he will never be powerless again, even if it costs his soul. From there, every Horcrux is a snapshot of what he's throwing away. The diary is pure narcissism, a teenage echo chamber that lets him relive his best self and rewrite his own origin. The ring carries the family he despises. By cursing and corrupting it, he symbolically rejects his Muggle past. The locket, from Slytherin's line, is his blood purity obsession in metal form, a tiny, poisonous sermon about who deserves to live. The cup, stolen from Hufflepuff, mocks fairness and hard work. He turns a symbol of loyalty into a private trophy. The diadem, once a source of wisdom, becomes corrupted wisdom, intellect stripped of humility. Nagini is different again, a living creature reduced to an instrument, proof that his idea of bond is just control. And Harry, of course, is the Horcrux he never meant to make, the living reminder that his attempt to conquer death literally backfires. When the curse rebounds, his body is blasted away, but his inner reality doesn't change. Those bodiless years, clinging to forests and animals, are just his spiritual state made visible. A soul that has nowhere solid left to stand. In this video, I'm going to be diving into how the Graveyard, Rebirth, and the Second War are basically his internal fragmentation turned outward. The pale, snake-like body, the divided followers, the constant paranoia, all of that is what his soul has been for years. King's Cross strips away the theatrics. We see Harry whole, and we see the flayed, whimpering thing that represents what's left of Voldemort. No wandwork, no Death Eaters, just the truth. After that, the final duel is almost simple. The Elder Wand turns, the curse rebounds again, and for the first time his soul has to submit to ordinary mortality. It's worth mentioning that none of this was inevitable. At every stage, in the orphanage, at Hogwarts, after each murder, Tom had choices. Prophecy might set the stage, curses might twist the path. But the state of his soul at the end is the sum of his decisions, not a single spell gone wrong. After this, we're going to look at what that means for everyone else in this story, and what the wizarding world is left with when the Dark Lord finally falls. So with all of that in mind, we want to hand this over to you for a second, because in this video we're going to be discussing something that doesn't actually have a single right answer. We've talked about the mechanics of Horcruxes and the timeline of Tom's choices, but now the real question is this: which Horcrux do do you think was the most soul-destroying for him? Morally, symbolically, or emotionally? First, there's Myrtle. The diary Horcrux is the beginning of everything. Killing a fellow student in the very school that finally felt like home is a line you only cross once. This is murder as an experiment, done by a 16-year-old who wants to test a theory and immortalize himself. If you feel that the first time you split your soul is automatically the worst, Myrtle's death might be your pick. Then we have the ring. Tom goes back to Little Hangleton, kills his father and grandparents, and turns the gaunt ring into a Horcrux. It's worth mentioning that this isn't just another murder, it's a deliberate erasure of his Muggle heritage, a symbolic killing of the man he blames for his very existence. If you see Voldemort's story as a war on his own origins, the ring is where he burns the bridge behind him. After that, consider Nagini. This is the only Horcrux that is a living, feeling creature. Keeping a snake under what is essentially spiritual slavery, carrying a fragment of his soul, takes his control issues to a whole new level. In this video I'm going to be diving into Nagini more later, but for now think about what it means that his closest companion is both pet and prison, victim and weapon, all rolled into one. And of course, there's Harry, the unintended Horcrux. Voldemort never means to tie himself to a baby, yet that accident changes the entire war. If you think the most soul-destroying act is the one that backfires so completely that it gives your enemy your own protection, then Harry is the obvious answer. That fragment of soul stuck in someone who grows up to choose love over fear is a brutal irony. So we want to know, at what point do you personally feel Tom becomes irredeemable, and why? Is it the orphanage, when he's already hurting other children and collecting trophies? Or do you draw the line later, when he starts calculated, ritual murder? Try to go a bit deeper than he was always evil in the comments, because the nuance is where this story really stings. Before we get started on the wider impact of his choices on the wizarding world, imagine you had one chance to speak to 11-year-old Tom in the orphanage. What would you say to him? Would you warn him, comfort him, challenge him, or offer him something Dumbledore never quite managed? Finally, tell us your favorite Voldemort or Tom Riddle moment from the books or films that for you best captures his fractured soul. Maybe it's the cold charisma in Slughorn's memory, the graveyard rebirth, or that final, desperate duel in the Great Hall. Drop it below. And if you haven't seen that video yet, then go and check it out after this, because next we're going to be looking at what Tom's choices leave behind for everyone else once the Dark Lord is gone. And if you're still with us at this point, then you're exactly the kind of viewer this channel is built for. You like sitting with the darkness a little longer and asking what it actually means, rather than just watching another flashy duel and moving on. On this channel, we're going to be treating the wizarding world like a real historical record. And Tom is only one file in a very crowded cabinet. We've already done what we like to call dark character autopsies on people like Snape, Dumbledore and Bellatrix, where we go through their lives scene by scene and try to work out where the point of no return really was for each of them. It's the same approach we've used in this video, just aimed at different, equally damaged souls. If you're fascinated by the way fear of death twists people, then there's one video in particular you should watch after this. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the Deathly Hallows themselves, not just as cool artifacts, but as a philosophy of how wizards meet their end. The Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, the Invisibility Cloak, and that tale of the three brothers all map onto characters like Dumbledore, Snape, and of course Voldemort, who is absolutely the brother who runs from death and thinks he can bargain his way out. It's worth mentioning that this Hallows breakdown pairs really well with Tom's Horcrux journey. We compare Voldemort's obsession with soul splitting to Dumbledore's quiet acceptance that his own death is coming. And we ask who is actually stronger, the man who tears his soul apart to cling to life, or the man who walks to the tower knowing he's already dying. If you haven't seen that video yet, then go and check it out after this, because it makes Voldemort's terror of mortality feel even more pathetic, and in a strange way, even more tragic. Another great companion piece is our deep dive into Snape's spells and what they reveal about his inner life. In that video, we're going to be discussing things like Sectum Sempra and Muffliato as a kind of emotional diary, where every curse and counter-curse marks a moment in his relationship with power, shame, and control. Watching Snape invent a spell that rips people open while Voldemort is out there ripping his own soul shows two very different ways damaged wizards weaponize their pain. And we're not stopping with them. Before we get started on future uploads, we're already sketching out autopsies for other villains and tragic figures, Barty Crouch Jr., Grindelwald, even someone like Draco, who stands right on the edge of becoming another Tom and has to decide which way to fall. If there's a character you want us to put on the metaphorical table next, let us know in the comments, because we really do read through those when we plan the next wave of videos. If you enjoy long-form, lore-heavy breakdowns like this, where we slow down and pick apart every choice, then consider subscribing so you don't miss the next descent into the darker corners of the wizarding world. Because as much as Tom's story feels like the end of something, what he leaves behind for the people who survive him is its own, much more haunting mystery. And that's really where we can close the circle on Tom Riddle's soul. We started this journey with two images. First, the handsome prefect gliding through the Hogwarts corridors, badge shining, teachers praising him, other students seeing a war hero in the making. And then, that inhuman figure in the little Hangleton graveyard, pale as bone, slit pupils, a voice like cold smoke. In this video, we're going to be discussing how those two versions of the same person are now completely connected for you. Because there was no single spell where Tom lost his soul. There was no one night where he went to bed as a charming orphan and woke up as the Dark Lord. He whittled himself away, murder by murder, lie by lie, with every calculated betrayal of trust and every Horcrux ritual that tore off another jagged fragment. He chose power over personhood until almost nothing human remained. Think back to that boy in the orphanage, collecting trophies from other children and smiling politely at Mrs. Cole. Then jump to the teenager in Slughorn's office, asking about Horcruxes with perfect manners while already planning which lives he was going to be spending. After that, picture the man who can stand in front of Lily Potter's crib, look at a baby, and still cast the killing curse. It's the same arc, just further along the line, and it's worth mentioning that every step made the next one easier. This is why Tom Riddle's story endures long after we've memorized the spells and the timelines. On the surface, it's about dark arts, basilisk attacks, cursed rings, and talking diaries. But underneath, it's about what happens when fear of death and fear of vulnerability override every other value you have. Tom cannot bear the idea of being ordinary, or loved or dependent on anyone. So he builds an entire philosophy where only control matters, where immortality is the only victory, and where other people are either tools or threats. And the tragedy is that magic doesn't fix that, it amplifies it. The more powerful he becomes, the more terrified he is of losing that power, until he's willing to live as a wraith on the back of Quirrell's head rather than admit defeat. In this video, I'm going to be diving into that idea again in future breakdowns, because it echoes everywhere in the wizarding world. So if you're still here after a nearly feature-length exploration of one man's descent into monstrosity, thank you. Seriously, it tells us a lot about how deeply you care about this story and how curious you are about the small choices underneath the big battles. If you want more long-form, lore-heavy dissections like this, where we slow down the films and books and turn them over scene by scene, then go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and share it with another Harry Potter fan who loves this kind of thing. Before we get started on the next topic, we always read through your comments. So let us know which corner of the wizarding world you want us to pull apart next. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one, where the magic is in the details.